You're watching India Global. I'm Gaurie Dwivedi. Let's start the show as always with headlines. UNSC to hold key closed-door meeting amidst India-Pakistan tensions. Russia's President Vladimir Putin dials Prime Minister Modi ahead of the UNSC meeting and extends full support to India amidst Pahalgam probe. PM Modi meets Defence Secretary amidst Indo-Pakistan tensions, meeting as India prepares response for the Pahalgam terror attack. India revives 6 hydro projects after Indus Treaty suspension. Hydro projects have been stalled due to treaty restrictions that do not exist anymore. Not one and done. Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu warns Iran after the Houthi attack. Conquest Gaza is what Netanyahu's latest plan is as war rages on. Israeli cabinet, meanwhile, comes out with a key decision, approves plan to capture all of Gaza. US slaps 100% tariff on films that are produced in foreign lands as President Trump says that he wants movies to be made in America again. Roughly 2 weeks since the dastardly Pahalgam terror attack took place, the United Nations Security Council will hold close consultations today to discuss the tensions between India and Pakistan. So far, out of the 5 permanent members, China, France, Russia, UK and the US, 4 have signalled strong support for India. They have backed India as far as this terror attack is concerned that took place on a tourist site where 26 innocent civilians lost their lives. Meanwhile, a week after India suspended the Indus Waters Treaty with Pakistan, it has now revived 6 hydropower projects in Kashmir, including increasing the reservoir capacity of storage at the TWC hydroelectric project. Once these 6 projects are completed, Jammu and Kashmir could generate up to 10,000 megawatts of electricity. This is crucial given that if the Indus Waters Treaty were still operational, India would have had to give Pakistan 6 months' notice before starting this construction, during which time Islamabad would have mounted several legal challenges to possibly ensure that these projects do not see the light of day. All right, joining me now to talk about the several aspects to this story, Mohammad Ghazali from New Delhi, Nazir Masoodi from Srinagar. Nazir, let me come to you first. Fresh set of moves made by New Delhi ahead of that crucial meeting, the UNSC closed-door meeting. Talk to us about these hydropower projects and the impact that they are likely to have going forward.
Well, the first major decision government took was to suspend this Indus Water Treaty. What it means that now you don't have to take permission from the Indus Water Commission or their approval or allowing them to visit the sites. For example, in these visuals, you can see it is the Bagaliar project. Yesterday, water was temporarily suspended, but the storage capacity of this project is just for 3 lakh, cubic meter, feet of water. This acre feet of water, that is it. While as Pakistan gets around, 27 million acre water from Chenab River. So there are proposals to build more projects which have been already in the pipeline to make them. But for that, the government always needed to, get the approval from the Pakistan, get Indus Commission, Pakistani Commission, Water Commission to visit here. And so that, because these were the conditions of Indus Water Treaty. So normally Pakistan is getting around 100 million acre feet of water from the 3 rivers of this Indus here and Jhelum and Chenab. Since yesterday, we have seen that water was stopped temporarily and it created huge hue and cry. And many thought that it would be, Pakistan has been punished, but that's not going to happen immediately because unless you raise the height of the dam, you cannot store more water. And then there would be the ecological cost. Then there would be, some areas can be submerged. So it's not an easy task. It's a tall order. It will take years together. But by temporarily stopping the water, India has sent a message to Pakistan. What it means when we suspend this treaty.
Yes.
And we can say that's already, and what it means for Pakistan and its survival, because Pakistan has already said
Yes.
that if they divert the water, they will treat it as an act of war.
All right. In fact, stay with us, Nazir, because I want to now talk about the other aspects. So we are covering and focusing on the India-Pakistan tensions that have escalated for three reasons after the terror attack that took place on Pahalgam. One, of course, is the aspect that Nazir was pointing out, New Delhi's actions, New Delhi's water warfare, the details that you see on your screens. The other two aspects, remember, Pakistan continues to violate the ceasefire at the line of control, even as measures are now set to be taken going forward by New Delhi on multiple counts. But ahead of that, there is now the UNSC closed-door meeting that will take place by India time, 1:30 in the morning IST I'm talking about. And ahead of that, a very crucial meeting, phone call took place between President Putin and Prime Minister Modi. What does that mean? Signaling the support coming in from one of the P5 members. Ghazali, talk to us about the messaging, the optics that this sends out ahead of that crucial meeting.
See, Gaurie, not just regarding this UNSC meeting, which is going to take place, as you mentioned, the schedule, the External Affairs Minister, Dr. Jaishankar, has been talking to non-permanent members of the United Nations Security Council. And then Prime Minister Modi receiving a phone call from Mr. Putin, the Russian president. That shows that how India and Pakistan, they both have been diplomatically jostling to gather more support. And evidently, we have seen that how the P5 countries have shown support to India for condemning the Pahalgam terror attack there. And Mr. Putin went on to say that he is with India when it comes to act against terror, and this is not a new alliance between India and Russia. And with with most of the members of the P5 countries, as well as many other countries who are non-permanent members, India already has a joint working committee or a group or mechanism to tackle global terror. And we have seen that in the last 6 months or so, that whenever Prime Minister goes on a foreign visit to any such countries, or even these foreign dignitaries come to India, a key part of our MOU revolves around tackling global threat. So that is one part, that how India has managed to gather a lot of support, and that will be quite evident when this Security Council closed door meeting happens. But very interesting would be to see Pakistan's stand, because in this entire Pahalgam terror attack, we know that who is the victim and who has been the aggressor. Now, what will be Pakistan's logic or excuse or kind of a standing when it comes to describing the Pahalgam terror attack? That would be interesting to see, whether Pakistan will be able to defend it, and what would be its talking points, and how India will counter it. That would be a interesting read as well as a visual to see.
All right, let's leave it there. Thank you so much, both of you, Nazir and Mohammed, for joining me to talk more on this story. In fact, ahead of that key UNSC meeting on India-Pakistan, let me put out now the big questions that we always ask on India Global before I open this up to experts joining me. First up, in fact, will world isolate pariah Pakistan at the UNSC closed-door meeting that will take place? Secondly, will the P5 countries now condemn Pakistan in that many words? Remember, they've backed India. One of them, in fact, held a call with India just hours before that meeting. But will they now come out with a statement condemning Terroristan Pakistan? The third, how will India's water warfare actually dry up Pakistan? That's a very key part of it, because Pakistan has been talking about it. It wants to escalate this. Remember, it's a bilateral issue. New Delhi is very clear about it. But will that actually find mention on the UNSC meeting? And lastly, what does Iran's foreign minister's meeting to Pakistan actually mean to India, and will that have a bearing on that closed-door meeting? Joining me now to talk more about this is, in fact, Achal Kumar Malhotra, former ambassador, as well as General S.P. Sinha, to understand what could be the larger takeaway of this. And in fact, Ambassador Malhotra, let me start with you. As we speak ahead of that crucial meeting, I come back to what I started this discussion with, which is that there is a global support that is firmly and squarely behind India, and one is seeing that ahead of a meeting that Pakistan called. Pakistan wants to raise this issue, an international issue, but the world stands firmly and squarely behind India. Ambassador Malhotra.
No, there's no doubt about it, because Pahalgam terror attack, we are the victim. And the entire world has been unanimous in condemning the attack, and they are always in every global forum, in all joint statements, in all bilateral statements, there is invariably a condemnation of terrorism and a determination to fight terrorism in all forms and manifestations. But that's the general position. Now, coming to the specifics, will they hold Pakistan responsible for this? By they, will they name and shame Pakistan? In the United Nations Security Council meeting, which is taking place now, very difficult to say because China is there. And China is very, despite the fact that they are sending a lot of feelers to India that they want to improve relations with India. But naming and shaming Pakistan in the UN Security Council meeting today looks very unlikely. This meeting is taking place at the initiative of Pakistan, and I think they have a predetermined agenda, and that is twofold. One, they would also try to project themselves as the victim of terrorism.
Yes.
Which, because of the TTP, they have been having terror attacks. They will deny, they will say they have absolutely no role in the Pahalgam. And thirdly, they will try to shed, tears. They say India is trying to punish us, give us punitive measures, taking punitive measures, like the Indus Waters Treaty, stopping water, which is against humanity, blah 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 blah.
Okay.
So the world being with us.
The point is not what Pakistan is saying, but the point is whether the world believes this bluff or not. That's really the larger point.
No, they don't believe, but they will not name or shame Pakistan in the UN Security Council. I can give you in writing today.
General Sinha, what would you like in terms of your expectation from this meeting?
You see, it's my belief that Pakistan has got moles in a United Nations Security Council. There are countries who directly or indirectly support Pakistan. One example I'll tell you. Then in United Nations, the mention of the fact that the terrorists asked for the religion of the people who have been killed and then killed them. They asked, are you Hindu? And then they killed them. That line is gone. Under whose influence? Chinese influence. That means, imagine the tariff, the resistance front of China, which is an extension of Lashkar-e-Taiba, 2 days after the incident admitted that we have done it. Under pressure from ISI, after 4 days they withdrew. The fact of the matter is that there is enough intelligence report and we have satellite communication intercepts which proves that Pakistan is involved. And there is no mention in United Nations. United Nations has taken any corrective action after 1947 to correct root cause of terrorism of Pakistan, which is the epicenter of terrorism.
Yes.
Nothing happens. It is put in FATF, then certain important countries start playing politics and it is removed from FATF. The country which deserves to be put in blacklist is removed from grey list.
Indeed.
If this is the way world has to function, then countries like Pakistan will have their free run. The question is how
they
far
won't have their free run. They won't have their free run because the world is able to see.
Gaurie, I'm telling you, they have got moles in the system. What action have they taken against Pakistan till now? I want to ask.
Ambassador Malhotra, do you think
what action against 9/11?
Okay.
26/11 case. What action?
Let me put that out to Ambassador Malhotra, which is that while you expect that there will be no naming and shaming of Pakistan at the UNSC closed door meeting, what do you expect could be the next course of action? Remember, diplomatically, there is a lot of support. Within the Trump administration, there is great amount of support. They put that out on record. Likewise, around the world as well. So what do you think could be India's next course of action after this?
No, Gaurie, what I can say for sure is that the global support and sympathy that has been expressed in the past 2 weeks or so in our favor, what would it translate into? It would translate into the fact that if we today decide to take some military action or we identify some selected targets and hit them, I can assure you that there will be absolutely no resistance from any other country, particularly the global players. It's not 1971 when the United States, they sent their 7th Fleet and all those kind of stuff. So they even some of them have defended they have said India has a right to defend itself. So if we are defending ourselves from terror attacks, there will be no hue and cry. I say so because of late the new normal is use force to secure your political rights if the need arises.
Yes.
This is what Azerbaijan did in Armenia. This is what Russia did in Ukraine.
Yes.
Now, this is what Israel is doing in Hamas. So this UN Security Council will end up by making once again an appeal to both sides to exercise restraint. They will express their
But they will not address the root cause. That's what you are saying. They will not address the root cause, making this entire exercise meaningless at some level.
Gaurie, even outside the UN Security Council, everybody has the good terrorists, bad terrorists. If the terror organization is aiming against United States of America, they'll do anything.
Yes.
In our case, if there is a India-specific terror, the best they will do is intelligence sharing, real-time intelligence sharing, and beyond that, nobody is interested. Nobody is going to do. They are not going to come and.
I think the biggest difference is, I have to wrap this up. The biggest difference here is that this is not India of 1971, that it needs somebody else to take an action against the wrong that has been done on its soil against its people. And that really is the biggest and the most important fact. Thank you so much, gentlemen, joining me today on India Global. I'm going to slip into a very short break, come back on the other side, talk more about, second Nepalese student found dead in a KIIT. What are the diplomatic and economic ramifications of that? We come back and talk more. Members of National Assembly in Nepal are now calling on the government to stop sending their students to Odisha's Kalinga Institute of Industrial Technology, or KIIT, following the death of two Nepalese female students under unclear circumstances in a matter of 3 months. The Parliament Secretariat says that lawmakers have proposed that no objection certificates now be withheld from any student that's planning to enroll at the institute. Remember, there are diplomatic, economic and larger ramifications of what is unfolding at KIIT. The External Affairs Ministry says it is aware of the situation. It is ensuring that probe is taking place, and the Government of India also wants that there should be an impartial probe. The UGC has done so as well. But what are the ramifications? Let's get in Lokraj Baral, who's the former ambassador of Nepal to India and also professor of political science, joining me to talk more on this. Sir, I think most people in New Delhi are deeply cognizant of the impact that these two unfortunate students have had in terms of the larger relationship between India and Nepal. How do you see this? What do you think should be the next course of action here?
Actually, there is an investigation going on, and we cannot come to the conclusion that so and such thing had happened. And unless the details are there, nobody can pass any kind of judgment on the issue. Because people here are concerned because two girls, actually, for the last 4 months, 2 girls have been, killed there. That is the concerns expressed by some members of parliament, and of course that is quite natural. But I don't think that is going to create major impact on India-Nepal relations.
And that's, I think, the larger point, isn't it? That India is supporting probe. India is trying to ensure everything that can be done is done. And these cases do not spiral into larger issues. But how do you see this now being seen in Kathmandu, given the fact that lawmakers are now wanting to take stricter action? How is Kathmandu viewing this?
I know it is quite natural that a few members, actually 2-3 members yesterday, raised this issue in parliament. Even today some raised it. It's quite natural that 2 girls have been killed, and what are the reason, what are the factors behind it, and they were just showing their concern. That's all. The government has not come, and they are very positive because the India government is also cooperating, and even the university, UGC, all are cooperating, and here also the government has not come to the conclusion, so and so. Only few members of parliament, they said that no more students should be sent to the college. That is the kind of concern, and I don't think that is going to create a major impact on major issues of India-Nepal relation.
All right, sir, we leave it there. Thank you so much for giving us Kathmandu's view on an unfortunate story which may snowball into a bigger relationship issue between India and Nepal. Shifting focus now from one neighbor to another. From Nepal, I'm now shifting focus now to Bangladesh, where Bangladeshis are now being given visas at 24 hours turnaround period by China. What is the larger impact of this? Is it trying to fill a vacuum, given that many of them were actually coming to India on medical visas? What's the larger impact of something like this? Dr. Brahma Chilani joins me to talk more on this. Dr. Chilani, green channel for Bangladeshis' medical visas is bound to have a larger impact on our strategic calculus, isn't it?
Well, not really, because how many Bangladeshis will go to China? The reason why the bulk of Bangladeshis wanting medical treatment overseas who are coming to India is because they could find Bengali-speaking doctors in India. Going to China, there will be a language problem for them, plus the cost of medical care in China is about 50% higher than in India. Bangladeshis have the option of going to Thailand or to Singapore, but the treatment costs both in Thailand and Singapore are higher than in India. So that will be one limitation on China rolling out expedient visas, medical visas for Bangladeshis. The problem is this, that the Indian High Commission in Dhaka is operating at reduced staff strength because it's still not safe for Indians to be in Bangladesh. Dhaka itself is experiencing rampant lawlessness, so the High Commission of India is functioning at reduced strength. But the second factor is that some Bangladeshis, not all, but some Bangladeshis who have taken medical visas have actually misused that kind of visa by engaging in other activities in India. So the Indian government is seeking to very carefully vet medical visa applications now. That's another reason why there's delay in issuing visas to Bangladeshis. Lots of visas are still being issued, but not at the same pace as they were being issued last year, simply because of these two reasons.
That's an important point. Radical Islamist elements have also, in fact, raised their ugly head. But that's an important perspective, Dr. Chilani, that you gave us, that Bangladeshis may be welcome when it comes to medical facilities in China, but do they really want to go is the big question. I'm going to slip into a very short break, come back on the other side, talk more about Israel's big warning to Iran after Houthi strikes. Stay with us. Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu has pledged multiple strikes against Yemen's Houthi rebels after a missile fired by the Iran-backed group landed near its airport, the country's main international airport. Claiming responsibility for the attack, Houthis said they acted in solidarity with Palestinians in Gaza. Israel's security cabinet has reportedly approved a plan to capture all of the Gaza Strip and remain there for an unspecified amount of time. The plan was approved today and is part of Israel's efforts to increase pressure on Hamas to free hostages, negotiate a ceasefire on Israel's terms, and it comes a week before US President Donald Trump's big Middle East visit. What is happening to the big plan of ending this war? Are we farthest away from the ceasefire? With Houthis coming in, what is the future for the Middle East is our big story right now. And as always, the big questions on your screens, viewers. Let's take them out. Israel's fresh warning, escalate. Will it escalate tensions? The truce talks are off the table amidst renewed offensive. We ask that question. Iran threatens US bases. Are nuclear talks now stalled? And tensions are escalating ahead of that big visit by Donald Trump. Joining me to talk more on this is Dr. Kinraj, in fact, Dr. Vailavad and Dr. Brahma Chilani. In fact, Dr. Kinraj, let me start with you. The latest escalation that one is seeing, the tensions one is seeing, gives a sense that we are probably looking at a scenario where instead of ending the war, we're probably looking at another escalation in a very deeply troubling scenario.
Yes, indeed, it is a troubling scenario. But as far as Benjamin Netanyahu is concerned, He's fighting this war for three reasons: his domestic political survival, his refusal to negotiate anything diplomatic and political about the post-Hamas scenario for the Palestinian issue, and third, just to make a very belligerent, aggressive regional hegemony for the state of Israel. Now, in all of these three aims, the security of the Israeli state is deeply compromised. As we saw, Houthis could reach to the single available international airport in Israel, and the whole country is in actually domestic infighting. The infighting in Israel is almost like a civil war, and the president and the ex-chief justice of Israel have openly said that we are officially in a civil war as far as domestic divisions are concerned. And for all of this, Netanyahu uses the war in Gaza as a proxy. It's really a proxy war for him. There is no real war in Gaza. It's much into the domestic Israeli
they may not.
politics.
You may say that there is no war in Gaza, but these Houthi rebels are, yes, they have been able to beat the Iron Dome. They've been successful in ensuring that they land and strike in Israel, but that indicates another round of escalation, doesn't it, Dr. Jilani?
Yes, especially because the Israeli Prime Minister says that Iran is behind the latest rocket attack on the Ben Gurion International Airport. So in a way, he's implying that Israel will impose costs on Iran. That signifies potential escalation. But look at the larger picture. First, you have Israel that's still engaged in wars against Hamas in Gaza, against Hezbollah in southern Lebanon, and now against the Houthis. Then you have the US under President Trump. He came to office promising to
He will end this in one day.
No, he said he will end the war in Ukraine, and he will also calm the Middle East. But he has done the opposite. He has been bombing Yemen for the last 50 days now, and questions are being asked as to what the US is achieving through this bombing campaign. He, in a way, has encouraged Israel to continue with its wars. And then in Ukraine, he is now supplying air defense systems to Ukraine as if his efforts at promoting a ceasefire are failing. So for Trump, things are not going well. For Israel, while it's clearly dominant militarily, yet it is fighting non-state actors. All these groups, the Houthis, the
Hamas, the Hezbollah, all of them.
They're all non-state actors. And the only state actor that the Israeli Prime Minister is now threatening to impose costs on
is Iran.
But Iran is not a small country. Iran is a major military power. And if there was any kind of direct conflict between Israel and Iran, that would certainly put the entire Middle East on fire.
It indeed would. Dr. Awad, where do you see this in terms of an Iran-Israel conflict escalating, given the fact that Prime Minister Netanyahu did mention Iran in so many words?
Well, I think to give the benefit of doubt to President Trump that he does not want to have a war, when the Prime Minister Netanyahu went last visit to the US, to the White House, he came out disappointed because he failed to make the American administration take on his terms and agree on a regional war or expanding it into Iran. So Iran has been on the main target for Israel. In fact, if you what Dr. Brahma have missed is Syria, that has been getting the brunt of the Israeli bombing throughout the night and the day for no reason. Now you have already removed Hezbollah, you removed Iran, you removed Assad. But then also the same group which you have supported since 2013, now they're saying these are terrorist group and we have to keep bombing them. So I think what is the survival of Netanyahu is the more he continue in power, the more he has to continue war in the region. And I think the Houthis have given him the message that they are independent with Iran. No doubt that Iran have supported the Houthi. But remember, Gaurie, that the Houthis have been Ansarullah. They have been fighting a war coalition war since 2015 when the United States led that war. And then they stopped over, the Saudis, the UAE pulled out, and again they have taken part in this war and saying that if you stop the war on Gaza, we will halt our operation against Israel.
Okay, Dr. Kinraj, this comes ahead of President Trump's important visit to the Middle East. All eyes will be whether he's able to convert some of these challenges into possible opportunities for a ceasefire. Does that look likely?
No, it doesn't. I don't think he hopes for any ceasefire. But what is it going to be interesting in Israel? Israel doesn't want his trip to Saudi Arabia go hassle-free. Remember, for last 2 years, Saudi Arabia promised it would normalize relations with Israel. But Israel went on a belligerence, meaning Israel refused to have any kind of a post-war conversation about Hamas or Gaza. So Saudi Arabia will strike a deal with America without having normalization with Israel. That's a big diplomatic loss for the Israeli state. Second, in the last 2 weeks, Netanyahu has made it very clear that he's not happy with Trump administration when it comes to Trump's policy towards Erdogan in Turkey and Iran. In fact, if we notice the recent firing of the National Security Advisor from the White House, Mr. Waltz, he was fired precisely because he was briefing Netanyahu more on the Iranian issue than Trump would like him to do.
Okay.
So actually, very soon we would realize that Trump will make some very unkind statements against Netanyahu's leadership.
So maybe we should brace for that. As we wrap this up, Dr. Shilani, I want to ask you, what would you expect to be the best case scenario in terms of President Trump's visit to the Middle East next week, given the volatility right now?
This is a very important visit by Trump, his first since he took over, returned to the White House. He'll be holding a summit with Gulf state leaders. He'll be unveiling his Middle East vision. He'll be seeking to promote greater U.S. involvement in peace building in the Middle East. In his first term, he had the Abraham Accords. He did make forward movement. In his second term, he wants to end the volatility in the Middle East, make it more stable. Now, of course, that's a huge task given the fact that the Middle East is a very complex place. But still, I think this visit of President Trump is important because of the key leaders that he will be meeting on this trip and the plans that he has. Of course, some of the plans that he earlier unveiled, he no longer is actually embracing. For example, he earlier proposed the U.S. taking over Gaza. He has no longer spoken about U.S. takeover of Gaza, but instead what he did, the vision that he outlined earlier has encouraged Israel to now seek to occupy the entire Gaza. So even though Trump has abandoned his Gaza takeover plan, Israel has taken off where Trump has left. But I think Trump certainly means business. He certainly wants to pacify or at least stabilize the Middle East. And I think we'll have to wait and see as to what he achieves next week when he embarks on his first second-term visit overseas.
As we wrap this up, well, all eyes on the visit. What one can say is that expectations have really tempered in terms of what can be really achieved out of President Trump's first visit to the Middle East. Thank you so much, gentlemen. I'm going to slip into a very short break, come back and talk more about President Trump and his plans of Made in America movies and what it means for the film world. Stay with us. US President Donald Trump has now announced a 100% tariff on all movies that are produced and made in foreign lands, quote unquote. Posting on his Truth Social platform, Trump said that he has instructed the Department of Commerce and the U.S. Trade Representative, USTR, to begin the process immediately, though he offered no details on how this entire measure will actually be enforced. The film industry has already been feeling the effects of Trump tariffs as China in April responded to the U.S.-China trade war by reducing the quota of American movies that are allowed in the country. The tariffs are likely to deal a significant blow to Western studios, especially Walt Disney, Paramount and Warner Brothers Discovery, still struggling to rebound after the pandemic. Meanwhile, Australia and New Zealand have pledged to support their local film industries in light of Trump's announcement. Now, what does this mean? What's the larger impact? How many movies actually get made outside of America? And how much could they actually bring back to these American studios? Girish Vankere, who's a film trade analyst, joins me to answer some of those questions. Girish, now help us understand, why is it that President Trump is actually wanting movies to be made in America? What is the kind of upside that he's hoping to get?
See, he has seriously observed that there are many countries like South Korea and Japan, which has been predominantly taking the share of the international content, especially animation. Japan and China are doing amazing. In the romantic dramas, South Korea is doing amazing. So there are a lot of new audiences which the world has found in the name of the other counterparts like Japan and China. So this was something which has made America insecure. And if we see recent years, the contribution or the number or the percentage of US films which have been gaining momentum has reduced in last 4 years.
Okay.
Year 2024 was the least business which US films has done in India. So it is not in India. Globally, Hollywood has been known for doing the only remakes or doing only typical style of films which people are now rejecting.
Okay.
So this is one of the biggest reason where they want.
No, so how can he turn the tables? How can he fix this?
No, they want to revisit that. They want to create bigger revenue by levying taxes like 100% tariff. If they are doing 100% tariff for Indian content, obviously the films which are released in the US will be reduced drastically. If we are releasing a film with a distribution cost of say 2 crores, if now 100% tariff will be 4 crores. So the guy who is distributing of
okay, now let's decode this. Let's decode this. Let's say the next Shah Rukh Khan movie has to release in the US. Talk to us, explain to us what changes with these 100% tariffs.
Exactly. So if a Shah Rukh Khan film is released there, the local distributor in the US will charge say 6 crore from the Indian counterpart to release that film. Now
he'll charge 12 crores.
Yeah, it will become 12 crore. Now this money which this Indian counterpart has to pay will definitely go in from his advances. It is called the advance fees or the MG, minimum guarantee for the Indian counterpart. If that becomes so big, he will choose the less number of screens instead of going all out, and that will be reduction in the content which has been given to the US.
Okay.
So instead of going all out with 6 crores or 8 crores, he will have a limited release, and that will be the limited visibility of our film.
Okay, so let's see how this pans out. One can say that maybe the star appeal of someone like a Shah Rukh Khan is not going to have an impact, but maybe some of the smaller stars, newer filmmakers, newer ideas, new studios probably could stand to get impacted. But who knows? Devil lies in the detail. We are yet to find out how those tariffs will really be stacked up once they come out in greater detail. All right, thanks much. And we now shift focus to the UK. Well, there were local polls that took place on the 1st of May, while those local polls had a national impact. And that was Nigel Farage's far-right party, that is a Reform UK. It flicked a crucial parliamentary seat from UK Prime Minister Keir Starmer's Labour Party. Many would say that that has encouraged the anti-immigrant leader's prime ministerial ambitions. In fact, a Tory leader also went on to say, Kemi Badenoch, who is the Tory leader, has admitted it is feasible that Nigel Farage could become the next Prime Minister. A concern for immigrants given the firebrand's vow to stop immigrants from entering all reform-led councils in what may be a very Trump-style move. But the fact is, the far right has gained in these local polls, What's the national impact? Let's get a Nicholas Stugent, as always, British journalist, former BBC editor, joining me live from London. Nicholas, one may dismiss these as local polls, but they clearly have a national undercurrent, don't they?
Well, I wouldn't dismiss them as local polls. They are, of course, important and they are a pointer. But local polls are fought on very different issues from those at the centre. And yes, the Reform Party under Nigel Farage can talk about limiting migration, but that's not a local power. That's entirely at the centre. So it's entirely in the hands of the ruling party at the moment. And I think you could say that the fact that reform has advanced in the local polls is because of discontent with the central parties, Labour and previously the Conservatives, who don't seem to have been able to keep illegal migration or indeed migration in general under control. So yes, we read the signs from this election, and Mr. Farage has increased his membership, his party's membership of the House of Commons by 1, so it's a total of 5 now, which is still way behind those of the major two parties.
Absolutely,
so
it may
I
be.
think
Right, it is in single digits, but I want to understand from you two things. One is that Mr. Farage has gone on to say his mayors have also said that they are not going to allow immigrants in the councils that they've been elected to. And what do you make of Conservative Party leaders in fact saying that Mr. Farage may in fact, at least he should be harbouring PM ambitions if nothing else?
Well, he definitely does harbour those ambitions, no question about it. And that was the case even before these local elections. He would love to be Prime Minister, and a lot of people would like to see him Prime Minister. I'm only really pointing out that it's a long haul before he gets anywhere close to that. And I don't read the results from last Thursday as showing he's particularly far advanced in that. Mm-hmm. About your specific question about limiting migration within the areas controlled by the Reform Party, well, as I said, dealing with migration and indeed illegal migrants and the housing of illegal migrants is entirely a central government issue. So the parties controlled by Reform can make a bit of an issue about it, but they can't stop it. That is entirely in the hands of the ruling Labour Party at the moment.
So there'll probably be some noise around it.
In perspective.
Yeah, there'll be some noise around it, but there may not be any action. But one thing then I want to ask you, sir, is that going forward, what's the message here for the Labour Party? Because many believe that some of the promises that they had made for the local polls weren't fulfilled, and this is people speaking up against some of Labour policies.
Well, I agree. I mean, what we saw was a protest vote, and it was a protest vote against the two major parties. The Labour Party in power now, yes, you haven't done enough to stop migration, so it's a protest, but also a protest against the Conservative Party that ruled for 14 years before at the centre. So it is a wake-up call for both those parties. Get things going, especially the party in power at the moment, of course, Labour Party, or you risk losing seriously at the next general election, which is still 4.25 years away, probably. So a lot can change. So I'm not belittling the significance of last week's vote. It is very important. It seems to make Nigel Farage a tiny bit closer to power at the centre, but I still think he has a very long way to go. But I would call last week's vote essentially a protest vote against the present government, Labour Party government, and the Conservatives. And it's the Conservatives who've lost more than the ruling Labour Party. They lost more seats to Reform because, of course, they are you could say, the alternative right-leaning party. And there's still quite a lobby that would like to see Reform and Conservative fight the next election together. But I don't think that will happen. So, yes, we read all the signs, but I wouldn't read too much into it in terms of what it means for the next election, because there's a long way to go before we get the next general election. Probably a long way to go, of course, assuming this government survives as long as it can.
Yes.
And let's face it, there's every chance that Labour will turn around its fortunes
and bring things like migration under control. I'm not making a prediction, I don't know, but they've certainly had the warning signs from this election.
All right, we leave it there. Nicholas Nugent, thanks so much for giving us that perspective from London. Shifting focus now to, well, the biggest event on the social calendars of celebrities around the world. The buzz and hype around the Met Gala. In fact, it's peaking now, and the Met Gala is, remember, held annually on the first Monday of May, which marks the opening of the Costume Institute's annual fashion exhibit. And this year, we'll see the debut of King Khan. Shah Rukh Khan is all set to make his debut at the global fashion event in a Sabyasachi creation. This year's theme focuses on the influence of black designers and culture on fashion. After making a mark at the Coachella Music Festival and Paris Fashion Week, Daljit Dosanjh will also be making his debut along with actress Kiara Advani. Well, with that, it's a wrap on this edition of India Global. Thanks so much for watching.